Hey, howdy, how's it going?
Hey Randall, it's Josh over at 1-800 BJJ-HELP. How's your day going?
It's going well. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been talking for like, I don't know, 20 minutes already. I'm like, damn, I wish we hit record. There's so many good things. So yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the podcast. If people are listening and they don't recognize your name, you've been on the podcast, I don't know, maybe a year ago or something, and we talked about wrestling for beginners. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a while ago. But yeah, it was wrestling for beginners. If you wanted to go find it, I what I do is explain how to approach wrestling for people who don't really wrestle. And that whole episode, I'm talking about shots. I'm not talking about how to do all the other things. Big reason for the reason I start with shots is uh, a bad defense doesn't beat a bad shot. A terrible defense beats a bad throw because you can just pull them on top of you. So I'm a big believer in starting with understanding how to attack the legs.
awesome. Yeah, and we wanted to follow up, and I think just it's going to be great to hear some of the wrestling perspective on a lot of common jiu-jitsu things. And I think a lot of people can resonate with like, oh, damn, I wish I wrestled in high school, never did, but got into jiu-jitsu, and there's just a lot we can learn from wrestlers like you. So,
I actually have a huge comment on that. Those people who say, "Damn, I wish I'd wrestled in high school." The dude who's a friend of mine, Jackson, whose clip we're about to show, never wrestled in high school. That's not a high school wrestler. That's a dude who came into the jujitsu gym, and frankly, he's worked a ton on his wrestling. And but that's not like he did this in high school. That is a guy who's never wrestled a wrestling match in his life, who I've witnessed out wrestle guys who wrestle in college.
wow. So there's hope.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's this clip I know we wanted to kick off with, and then we can meander around from there. I know we'll cover underhooks and overhooks a little bit later, similarities between leg lock and wrestling. We'll talk about front headlock and turtle, but to
Yeah.
kick things off, Jake is sharing his screen here with a pretty cool clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just, like, play it, and then
Yeah.
you can tell me what to pause on or yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and play it. It's all right. Pause it.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Well, a little bit earlier. So as you can see,
Just,
Jackson gets picked up. The guy he's wrestling or he's grappling in this match is good. This dude's in the UFC. If you're not aware, and he can wrestle. He can really wrestle. He picks Jackson way up in the air, and as you play it, you'll see he goes to try and slam Jackson on the floor, and Jackson mounts. He punches in a whizzer. He extends his arm to build height, and he throws his leg over. And the the illustration point I wanted to make that is like, especially as you get better at wrestling, taking people down is so hard when they have good hips defense. Now, like this is high level. This isn't like, hey, beginner, be afraid trying to do that. No, if you're trying to beat either of the guys in this gym, in this match right here, you're you already have to be pretty damn high level before you consider that. So what I'm saying is, connecting in like there's really three stages to all takedowns. What I mentioned were the three stages earlier, were to shots specifically, but there's hey, make your connection, break their balance, land on top. And the funny part about that is that applies to offense and defense. That applies to both. That's why part of the reason you get so many guys out there who like to just play defense because they don't have to do the first two. The other guy does it for him, and then they're like, I'm just going to try and land on top when this guy starts breaking the balance. But the one thing that, like, personally, like, hurts my soul about that approach is, well, yeah, that works, but that doesn't work when you're losing late at all, at all, because the other guy's just not incentivized to make the connection and break the balance, and those have to be done before you can land on top. And so he's not going to do those two things for you. So if you want to be a guy who can, in a wrestling match or a jujitsu match, if you end up on your feet late, go get the points, go get that takedown. You have to be able to be the guy who can awesome make the connections, break the balance, and then land on top. And it just takes a lot of reps. And I honestly believe the best way to handle this portion of that land on top portion, is CLA, where you just do it a bunch. You put people in different positions and you just do it a bunch. Constantly looking to try and control both legs, control control hips, control whatever it is, and hold them down, because there's no just answers. There's just reactions. That's it.
I don't know if this is a good time to talk about this or not, but before the podcast, we were talking about the similarities between leg locks and wrestling.
Yeah.
And what you just said there reminded me of a clip from Lucas Kennard, who basically said the hardest part about playing guard is making like a good connection to someone,
Yeah.
and like getting the entry into the legs. And a lot of times, like when the guard passer decides to sit down and attack your legs, they did the hard part for you. So all you have to do now is like be comfortable defending, and you're in on a leg entanglement of your own. So yeah, it reminds me a lot about what you were talking about with counter wrestling.
It's shocking. I wouldn't have known this until I became at least a good leg locker. I wouldn't say I'm great, but I've won matches with heel hooks and straight ankle locks and stuff. But there's a lot of similarities between, like, not the movements. The movements are different, but like the themes and like how you go about winning in the legs versus how we go about winning standing. Because when you're standing, you're always in a 50-50, 70-30, 60-40, something like that. You're, to get a takedown, you have to put yourself in position to be taken down. To leg lock somebody, you have to be in a position where a good leg locker might counterattack you and win almost every position, unless you're already in some checkmate position. But there's checkmate positions in wrestling too. So it's surprising how thematically similar they are.
What are those when we're looking at the land on top portion of the phases, what are some checkmate positions that you think could be good for people to start in and do some CLA from there?
So like full up checkmate positions, having two arms wrapped around two knees, right above the knees on the thighs. If you can't out wrestle somebody who you've locked your hands above their thighs, your angle relative to them is you're behind them. I'm gonna just pause about this. When in wrestling, if you can work behind or lateral to your opponent prior to taking them down, you are passing guard while they're applying weight to their feet still. Like their guard, they can't do all these guard retention movements while they're still their legs are still weighted. So if you start like moving your body around theirs, and then you're controlling, and then you bring them to the ground, you're avoiding a good guard player's guard. And like, I mean, who wants to be in a good guard player's guard? Like, I'd way rather have already passed it the second we hit the ground. Give him reason that he never wants to wrestle with like another wrestler who's good about that again, because I put him in a worse position than if he had sat down. You know what I mean? I try to do that as much as I possibly can. It's yeah.
It's interesting because like I know you talked about this a little bit on the first the first time you were on, but
Yeah.
rule sets like ADCC kind of discourage takedowns into pinning positions because it's harder to control them. Whereas like people like Joseph have talked a lot about what they've labeled as terminal takedowns, where like if you take someone down and you end up in their closed guard, this is good because you secure your points. So like inside trips and things like this, they're really enjoying because it leads to like a more terminal position as opposed to like, passing to a pinning position.
100%, you're correct. I mean, and I honestly think that's like colored the whole sport as far as takedowns go. Because if John Danaher or like Craig Jones or like some coach of a team, and Craig Jones is the coach team, but whatever. Anyway, if some coach of some coach of a team that's a high level team is preparing his athletes, he's preparing them for ADCC rule set. He's preparing them for like, maybe it'd be harder to choose CGI rule set, for example, because it's not as stable. But like he's preparing for ADCC rule set, so when he goes and films an instructional, he's not coming up with a whole new plan for people who don't compete in ADC rule set as often. So if you're like thinking about these, hey, I'm going to go into a guard takedowns, and you're thinking about that as good, well, it's going to change the whole way that most of the sport even thinks about it. But if you're not competing in an ADCC rule set, I don't want to land in your closed guard after a takedown. Takedown to side control is as many point signs as takedown to closed guard. I personally don't think it should be. I think a takedown to side control should be more than the number of points for
I
a
think it
takedown
is
into someone's
actually.
closed
I
guard.
think they give you 4 points for a takedown to like side control.
Oh, they do in
yeah.
ADCC? Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
but it's harder to achieve, obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But like it just, I think it's sending beginners down the wrong path because they're not competing around an ADCC rule set.
Mhm.
And you know, for the vast majority of them, like I know opens exist now, but you know, it's way more likely they're an IBJJF type rule set.
Gotcha. So hands locked above the knees, kind of on the thighs. If you can be on the side of them, or even better, behind them, that's like a great checkmate position to start with. And then, yeah. Oh, I need to do that way more because there's so many times where I'm losing the rear body lock and I don't really know where to go from there. And I know I mentioned before we start recording, I think sometimes I accidentally kind of just slide down and just try grabbing onto whatever, but I should spend a lot more time trying to finish. And that seems like Andres calls it like the super messy bits where you're like almost going to lose something. And a lot of times we just give up, instead of like fighting tooth and nail for that last second. And maybe that's why it's so hard to finish takedowns on people who are really good, is that last messy bit is just so hard to practice, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's a video where Andrew Kage was talking about how when he goes against other jiu-jitsu people, he has more grit than them in almost always. And then when he goes against guys who fight MMA, he has less grit than them. And I would argue a lot of those like wrestlers are also in that highly gritty category because it's. So I'm gonna say something that's not exactly nice to all wrestling coaches out there. So because wrestling in the United States is done in schools, you're gonna have a roughly finite number of wrestling coaches, regardless of how many guys want to be wrestling coaches. It like in jujitsu, no one opens a jujitsu gym who doesn't want to coach jujitsu. But like I have been literally talked into coaching as being a head coach on a team for a middle school that I didn't want to coach because as a middle school. I wanted to be a volunteer because they needed a guy. All right. And so one of the things that happens in that circumstance is it's easier to tell people, hey, it's on you to develop grittiness and attributes instead of it's on me to give you the answers to the test. You know what I mean? So like give you the ability to run through a wall instead of giving you the key, the key to the door in the wall. Now that's totally a thing. That's totally a thing because where coaches are like, you just got to work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder. And this is not all of them. Don't get me wrong. There are good coaches out there. Don't write Jake or Josh and say like, oh, that Randall guy's completely wrong. If you think I'm talking about you, you're probably not. You know what I mean? But so you develop attributes. You develop like, hey, I'm going to be gritty as hell. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be like when I coached, I literally gave a award for the meanest wrestler. So, so you're going to develop attributes. You have to. But like we're also going to develop skills, and so I feel like that element of jiu-jitsu, not everywhere. Like again, not everywhere where the super grittiness. I feel like it's less common for guys to be like incredibly gritty because everyone has to work the next day a lot of the time, and like the quantity of dudes who don't compete in jiu-jitsu is pretty high. I've never met a guy who's like, I wrestled for years. How much did you compete? Oh, I didn't. I've never met that guy in my entire life. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that there's a cultural difference there a little bit. And so the answer is go get it, chase it. Like why give up on it? Like you don't hit each other, but start a fight over that little spot that you're not that you aren't getting. And sometimes the answer is just physicality. I mean, I totally mean that. It's sometimes it's just the attribute. What can you do harder than them?
Yeah. And I think that like you were saying before, that CLA is a great way to practice those little gritty bits of
it is.
the finishing.
It's fantastic.
Are there any other checkmate positions real quick that we can give people for finishing takedowns?
I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to give you a bunch because frankly, there's a lot of things that seem like they should be checkmate positions, but here an example of one is I was a teenager and a guy had my foot up on his shoulder and I knee picked him and landed on top. So like that should have been a checkmate position, but he stopped wrestling for a moment. Like you know what I mean? And it helped that I was 6'4" at 160. So like that I could reach his legs, but it, there's not like there's like highly close to checkmate positions, but I just had to I quarreled with my own language there about the word checkmate. There's a lot of highly advantageous positions, such as, hey, you have their foot up on the outside. So meaning by on the outside, I mean their 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 calf slash knee is across your chest, and if they and that you are not between their legs, because the in between their legs, you can get trickier. I can square you up more. I mean, I personally, if somebody gets me there and like we're square, and so they are between my legs, I'll grab and I'll hook on both their shoulders and I'll pull their shoulders down, and they start trying to move me or like try and move me or like run the pipe. When they do that, I'll jump and I'll put all my weight through them, and so it becomes really hard. You know what I mean? And so like, yeah, they should take you down there, but it truly checkmate. Yeah, like that arm, that leg across the chest. Anytime you're controlling two legs should be one of these things you're practicing all the time. Having the knees pinched with your knees is even more checkmate than with the arms. So like for example, if I can get those two, my arms wrapped around the legs, the biggest thing I personally want, especially because we're doing jiu-jitsu, is I want to move knock them down, move my hands up close to their waist, and then pinch their knees down with my knees, and just climb right to mount. So like, go and take down the mount, and I've done that numerous times in matches, and it's demoralizing the other guy. You can just tell. You can just tell, like they're like, we were on our feet and I'm mounted.
Yeah, that happened to me in my last competition. I took someone down and I ended up in bottom mount. So it just kind of reminded me of like that clip you showed at the beginning of this episode where like you could be in the best advantageous position, but even finishing there, everything can go wrong.
Oh,
it's just
so
like tough.
I mean, we didn't talk about this, but I have because we're talking about something that with like no defined rules, and I'm telling you like the no defined like do this, then do this, no defined sequences. Not rules isn't the right word. No defined sequences. I'll tell you that I actually like have like the rules of scrambling I put together a long time ago when I coached, and they were written on the board in the gym I attend for a long time, where it was like, hey, and I'll just tell you, first one is if you don't know what to do with your hands, grab their hands. And this is in all of jiu-jitsu. Like these are the rules for get on top, stay on top. By the way, they're not get out of submissions. They're not. Just get on top, stay on top. So like if you don't know what to do with their hands, grab their hands. Hey, if your high hips wins, like the two most universal ones there, if you can control their bottom foot, they'll never heist if you're controlling their bottom foot. Like they have to turn, make it their top foot, and then so control their bottom foot. If they're controlling your bottom foot, don't let them get your foot out of there. It's as dumb as it sounds to just have it be the opposite. It is. I started listening. Well, there's 7 of them. Oh, if you're like teed up to them and like you don't have good connection, do you know what I mean by teed up? So like you've taken them down and they're like you're perpendicular to each other in any kind of way, and like for example, like you hit sideways and you don't have great control over them. Roll downhill, and what I mean by roll downhill is turn your body toward their legs. Don't roll toward their head. Like I know I've seen good guys in jiu-jitsu roll toward their head and throw submissions. I know I've seen it. These are rules for get on top, stay on top. Okay, they're not rules for like they're rules that are also allowed to be broken if you know what you're doing. Like, but they're just like guidelines. I'll eventually come to the other one. I had them written down, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, so I didn't double check to make sure I had them.
This is Josh's sequence where he ended up on bottom here.
Okay.
But yeah, one thing I thought was like you always talking about those rules. Yeah. You see, like the defender here just like grabs Josh's hand right here.
Yeah.
And
if you don't know what to do, grab with their hands, grab their hands. Oh yeah.
Kind of interesting.
You will be befuddled how often that helps people. Like at the highest level, it's not going to help. They already know what to do. But like if while they're still in the phase of like they have things where they don't know what to do, I can only name like 3 submissions where like the dude doesn't use his hands, and most of them you're still going to use your hands at some point to facilitate it. Like I haven't seen a good guy triangle another good guy with 0 use of the hands. Like I haven't seen anybody Tariqa Plata somebody with 0 use of the hands if they're both good. So like, yeah, it'll defend a lot of stuff if you just get on their hands if you don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that clip is so funny. I remember, and it was so demoralizing. It was exactly what you said, Randall, because I remember the match started and I was like, instantly I was mounted. And I was like, what? I was so shocked in that moment. Like, how did I end up here? It was very shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I could totally understand why. You just if there's points in the match, you're down a minimum of 6, and you just did something you like there where you thought you were doing well, and it just reversed on you. So like I'm not trying to make fun of you at all, but I totally get why that would be very demoralizing.
It was hilarious, man. And it was like the first time I really tried to wrestle anyway. I just get mounted, which is awesome. But
for the record, he won that match.
Oh, awesome.
It was a rough start.
Yeah.
Very rough start.
I can tell you the biggest reason that happened right now.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't just watched it. Go back to it real quick.
Yeah. Sorry, let me share my screen.
This is turning into therapy session for Josh.
That's fine. All right.
You want to play slow-mo?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You shoot there. Look at your hips. Look at your hips. Your hips are not parallel with the mat. Like as you're going down, your hips are turned, going that way.
Right.
You are wheeling like you were gonna land hip to the mat. If you were like, and so what that means is that the foot that's out there floating,
Yeah.
you're not connected to the mat with it. Like
Right.
if your hips were down, connected to the mat with it, you are so heavy to lift. You are so heavy to lift. You like him pulling you up and then turning you over. It's not happening. But also because you're falling to that hip, the same hip is the leg, that leg that's attached to that hip. You can't get it wide and throw it higher toward his head and literally create a post in that direction. It has to be narrow because you're going hip to the mat.
Interesting.
Like you can't avoid it. So like it's honestly, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just gonna say, it reminds me of like the classic like butterfly sweep defense is just like keep your hips square to the mat and don't let them rotate your hips. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know before we started recording, when you guys were talking about like wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I was like, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. It's just different rule sets.
Yeah, but due to the different rule sets, I feel like it incentivizes different actions, and I think for a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, I'll speak for myself. I just forget about all the wrestling options. Like forget about optimizing, forget on top, stay on top, and instead play jiu-jitsu, be comfortable on my back, whatever it is. And I was thinking 2 areas maybe we can just like explore is front headlock and turtle, about the jiu-jitsu perspective of it versus like all these wrestling options that maybe jiu-jitsu people forget about.
Yeah, and so that's 100% totally we can do that. First off, second of all, sorry for interrupting you. I keep forgetting we're recording.
No.
And how to like be I don't know.
Be cordial,
Anyway.
Randall.
Yeah. Exactly what I gotta say. Anyway, so yeah, sure. So on front headlock for a couple things, big wrestling versus jiu-jitsu perspective difference. Wrestling doesn't have any chokes, the least legal ones. I've witnessed people trying to darce people in wrestling, and I've yelled at a ref for yelling that's a darce. I don't coach anymore, but I used to, and so I've literally yelled that and then stepped on the mat after that because the ref didn't know what a darce was. But yeah, so the chokes aren't allowed in wrestling, but because of that, you're going to see in wrestling when the top front headlock guy is almost always going to do what they call hide their elbows. And hide their elbows means their elbows are going to be in line with their torso or higher. It's going to be the bottom dude's going to have substantial difficulty reaching up and grabbing either elbow. And the reason for this is because those elbows are the keys for the bottom man to get on top. If you grab that elbow and you're on bottom and you fall, and I say fall, but I mean slam the same side hip into the ground, that's dump. You pull him right. His humerus doesn't get any longer. You pull him right to his hip, and then you run your feet at him and throw that arm out and chase him, and you hit it, and you get to a dump. And then if you can get it with the cross hand, you pull it across your face and chase his hip, and you get to what's called a sucker drag. And so, like, those are hard to stop. I mean, if you want to look at anyone out there wants to look at a really good example of a guy with a dump, is he wrestled for Ohio State. He 197 pounder for Ohio State in 2020. It'll come to me eventually, but he was the favorite for the national championship that year before COVID canceled the NCAA tournament. But anyway, he's super good at it. Yeah, he could he dumped people all over the place. And yes, it's Colin Moore, exactly
Colin
who
Moore,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah. And exactly who it is. And then a sucker drag is called so because if you let me grab your hand or your elbow with my hand that's across, you're a sucker. Like you don't see that at wrestling at high levels very often because the name is literally called a sucker drag because I remember hearing my coach at high school once literally yell he's being a sucker drag at people. And then like that was exactly what we were told about it. If he lets you reach cross hand, he's being a sucker. And the thing is, to go in there and choke people, you have to reach that cross hand. Like, like if you want to like get to a darce or and a darce, yeah, that has to be there. If you want to get to a darce, that has to be there. If you're going in there for an arm and guillotine, it's probably going to be there. Not saying you're going to get out every time with those because in wrestling you can't choke somebody, so illegally anyway. So you can't apply the same pressure to prevent them from getting out because you're going to be choking then. But it's still really effective before it's very tight.
Yeah.
Still very effective. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then the one last thing I would say is the most universal of all of them, which is number one of the rules of scrambling. If you don't have to do it with your hands, grab their hands. Hey, his hand's in front of your face. Take two hands to his hand and straighten out the arm that's wrapping your neck. Put that hand on the ground and stand up.
Yeah.
That's so hard to stop against. Like if somebody's like tenacious, they grab it, they're pulling it. I call it ring the bell because it always reminded me of ringing a gigantic church bell where you're pulling it down as hard as you possibly can.
Right. So you're kind of like grabbing their, what we call jiu-jitsu, their choking arm, 2-on-1, and they're just going straight to the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. And in wrestling, in that front headlock position, what are the guys, this might sound like a dumb question, but what are they fighting for?
They're fighting for a takedown. So they're fighting to not let the bottom guy's fighting to not let the top guy cover his hips with cover the bottom guy's hips with the top guy's hips. You get all the way around and you get past the arms and you get the hips covering the hips. Guaranteed that's a takedown.
Mm-hmm.
So he's fighting to make sure that he doesn't get covered by the hips.
Got it.
And so that exactly high hips wins. Well, if you put your hips directly over his hips, you've got the takedown, you're on top.
And so the top guy is like really trying to go behind and get it. Okay, I see. Because I asked that because I'm thinking about maybe what kind of games that we can create for jiu-jitsu guys to incentivize some of these wrestling movements, I guess. And so maybe you can have the top guy fight to get behind and secure, I don't know, something.
Just get behind the arms. Once you get behind the arms, the covering the hips is easy. It's getting past the arms that's hard. Like wrestling, like they'll pull on the inside of they'll pull the tricep and they'll pull it forward. They'll bump you. They'll pull you forward. They'll pull you forward. They'll put their head inside. Like from that top front headlock, one of the things I used to do is I like to block the arm with my head. I like to dip my head literally into the arm. Like the back of my head will be in his armpit, and then I'll reach over and grab the foot. I'll grab the knee. A lot of people will grab the hip, but the thing is, if you grab the hips are more powerful than your arm, guaranteed. So you are connected, but are you controlling? If you grab the foot and you pull it out and like you're at a weird angle, yeah, you're controlling that foot. If you grab the hips, you might be controlling, probably, maybe. You know what I mean? you are more in for a fight if he decides to put up the fight. But if you're controlling, like if you grab the laces, like think about where your shoelaces are on your foot. If you grab those and pull it to you, I mean, the guy's arm's gonna win. Your leg's in an awkward situation. Yeah, especially if you grab the far one and then you're pulling it across the near leg. You'll see guys from Penn State do that a lot. Which, if you guys aren't aware, Penn State has been like the most dominant wrestling program in the country for like 11 years. Like I think they've won 10 of the last national titles.
Dang,
So like,
that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. So from a wrestling perspective, if you're the guy on bottom defending front headlock, is your goal so your goal is number one, don't let their hips get to your hip, don't let them get behind. But from there, are you trying to go to neutral, or kind of like you mentioned earlier with the dump? It's like that seems like an amazing move, but does that happen a lot? Or
Yeah. So like, no, your goal, if you're in bottom front headlock in wrestling, a lot of times you've shot. So your goal is to go get that takedown. Your secondary goal, if that's not happening, is to get back to neutral. But like, if I'm confident shooting takedowns most of the time, because I'm confident that even if I get stopped in the front headlock, I'm probably gonna be able to, in most matches, to be able to do something to get to a leg, get to the arms, dump, sucker drag, a bunch of other stuff. And at worst, I'm trying to go neutral again. If I don't think that my shot is going to be like the negative, the left tail of the distribution of my shots is going to be a at worst neutral, I'm not shooting a ton. You know what I mean? Like the confidence to shoot, it comes from the fact that I believe most of my outcomes are going to be positive to me. And so, I mean, you got to have confidence like that to shoot, which is a big part of the reason I'm a believer that you have to do so much work on finishing, because otherwise people get real hesitant. They go out there and they have a good shot and they just don't do it.
Yep, that's me. I end up in that bottom, like where I like even wrestling up, just like I'm on a leg, but I'm completely like sprawled on, and I just don't know what to do from there. Like that sucks. I'm there all the time.
I gotta tell you, all right, directly addressing this. You don't need that leg that bad. You don't need to hold on to that leg that bad. What you need to do is prevent him from getting behind you. So you're in the bottom for a headlock. Stop holding onto that leg at that point. You're extended. You're not strong from there. You need your base under you. Now, next big thing. He starts going quick. You're gonna be able to do this crazy thing where you're rolling your shoulders forward. If someone's not watching, all I'm doing is like I'm doing the same internal rotation as if I'm throwing a baseball. I whip my arm forward.
Yeah.
Like I'm throwing a baseball overhand. And like literally do this with a partner. So like have a partner try and like, hey, don't mess with my arms, just try and come behind it. You literally throw that over them and you knock them down until it hit. And then you take top. I have multiple matches in like Jiu Jitsu. I have a bunch of them back when I wrestled where people try to do that, and I literally just throw over. This hand blocks their hips. They're coming to the side, and I knock them sideways, and I start chasing their legs and get on top.
Dang, I never thought about that hand blocking as a way to get on top. I always just stuck it out there just to defend. Like I never thought about using it offensively.
Well, you have to do it hard to do it offensively. Like you have to have timing. You have to have timing, and you have to do it hard. Like you can't just stick like that's just
that's what I do. That's what I do.
Holding it out there is not offensive. It's not even very defensive because I'll just go the other way, and you're gonna lose your base if both hands are up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's not even very defensive. But it's better than just hanging onto the leg. So because if you just hang onto the leg. There's actually a move out there called like from wrestling called the clinger cradle. And the joke was like, hey man, you got a stage 5 clinger on your leg, and you can just cradle them up into a ball, and like, and so you it doesn't help to prevent them from going around you anyway. You're sacrificing your base for connection. We need our base and balance more than we need connection, especially if we're okay with neutral. You know what I mean? So put your hand in front of you, get your weight back so that your weight's over your hips again and your weight's over your feet again. And then we'll fight them from there, where we're constantly trying to attack the hands, and make space, back up. Yeah, and just backing out of a shot. Like, and to be fair, knowing when to abort a failed shot is a skill. Like it's not just innate.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about, I was listening to Kyle Dake talk about this.
Yeah,
And I've talked about this before on the podcast. I think I even put it in the video. But he was talking about how he likes to have like indicators from positions. And this probably comes from what you were talking about of like practicing finishing a bunch. So you know what you like
yeah,
can sacrifice versus what you can't sacrifice.
sure.
And basically his indicator was if I'm attacking a single leg and my shoulder position is not correct, I'm transitioning to something else. Like I'm
Yeah,
taking an underhook. I'm, focusing on base. I'm not continuing to attack that single leg. But if my shoulder position is good, I'm going for it. Like I'm pretty confident that this is going to result in a good outcome for me. So
and
yeah.
yeah, that makes perfect sense because if your shoulder's in the right spot, and granted, by the way, I'm not one to I'm nowhere near good enough to tell Kyle Dake he's wrong, and on top of that, he's right. But but that also makes perfect sense because if your shoulder's in the right position, you're not extending, you're not way extended. Like you're strong when you're all compact. So if your shoulder's touching like, and I'm going to mention the sweep single again because I genuinely believe it's like the most underused shot in the sport, and like it's extremely good. If you can get your shoulder to the back of the thigh in that sweep single, I, I can hold on to somebody by just without with my hand open and one arm. Like if my shoulder stays in the right spot. Now, if he can move my shoulder off there, I need my arm for cover, but it's not hard to hang on to. It like you're in such a good spot if your shoulder's there. So like that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. You're not extended. You're in a good position. Hey, that's exactly what I was, Jake, sorry, I call you both J words. Uh, Josh was talking about like when he's shooting out and extended, his shoulders are like the length of his arms away from where they need to be. He needs to get out of there.
So what would you consider to be good shoulder position? Like connected to
Sh-
their leg in any sort of way or what?
Connected to them directly. And the reason I say that instead of just leg is because hey, maybe I'm shooting like a duck under and I'm connecting to their ribs.
Right, right,
But like if I'm getting my shoulder touching their body and it's not a limb,
right.
like you're in great position.
Cool.
And granted, Kyle Dake's got to bail on those earlier than other people because he wrestles at the Olympic level, not a. I mean, he's a multiple time world champion, not a guy who does local competitions, and you know, yeah. So just to be clear, like you can work your way to getting the shoulder there in a way that in a way that he's never going to have the option to anymore.
Right. Yeah, this is a really good, I think, focus for designing games for front headlock is like having them fight over getting hips, getting behind, and then also starting in weird positions like that failed shot and then knowing where to recover from there.
Yeah, you starting that failed shot, you know your answers. Do whatever you got to do to build your base as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because you will get scored on otherwise, or you will be submitted otherwise. Because the other thing about that with those extended arms is it's real easy to throw in a darce around those extended arms
Right.
when your arms are already way up here. I want to put it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. If your arms down here, it's gonna be hard to put your shoulder in your neck.
Yeah, yeah. Where it gets weird with getting your base back is now with jiu-jitsu, you can kind of like get your hands back and just kind of lay back on your back and be in guard or try to re-guard some other way and continue
Yeah.
playing. But
I mean, that's totally an option. And yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, it's not one I'm choosing very often personally, but like, yeah, yeah. You're laughing. I know you're both laughing because I mean, my style is very wrestling heavy. I know I've talked a bit, and so like I'm going to use what I'm good at, and if you don't, that's moronic.
yeah, and that's the part of my game I think I would like to develop more of is like to be able to dictate if I want to be on top to be able to get on top. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Literally, I've said this to multiple people. I go to the gym with and who compete. Like, hey, if your best place in the mat is you're on top, you need to learn how to wrestle. Like, if you're an amazing guard player, having wrestling in there will give you a diversity of options to be people who you can't otherwise be. Because if you're an amazing guard player and you're facing Dorian Alvarez, a guy one of my teammates has lost to, uh, he just rumbled past him back and forth for like 2 minutes before he eventually got past. And like, that's no hate on my teammate. My teammate, he's tough as hell, but that dude's good to go back and forth. It's a hard guy to keep in front of you. You know what I mean? Now, not saying that in that particular circumstance that many people are also going to be able to out wrestle him. That's a hard problem to solve. But more, there are great guard passers who aren't great wrestlers. I don't know. I'm forgetting things. Levi Jones-Leary is an example of one. He's a heck of a guard passer, but he doesn't he's not going to wrestle super well. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Now, how about talking about Turtle now from a wrestling perspective versus a jiu-jitsu perspective?
So in one major difference in wrestling is way more people consider getting back to your feet to be a good outcome. And so in my perspective, and when we do turtle drills in the gym, I swear half of them to 70% of them where I'm the guy on bottom, I'm standing up. What's happening is I'm not moving too fast because honestly, I believe the guys who, unless you are lightning, like if you're coaching a dude who is lightning, then absolutely do this. Go beat them up to the punch, be faster than them, fine. But I've never been that guy in my entire life. I'm quick, but I'm not super fast. What I do is I look to get a hand on a hand, control a hand. The second I can control a hand, I stand up. And I do that more than anything from Turtle. And if I'm not doing that, I'm probably hitting a sweep single from Turtle, where they get a little angle on me and I'm hooking the leg and I'm immediately running a sweep single from bottom Turtle.
Whoa, wait, what's that look like?
So like you're underneath them, they go out and don't stay hips behind your hips in order to they're trying to attack you. Maybe they want to get toward a crucifix or something, and you wrap on the outside of the leg and you start scooching your butt backward relative to them, cover the front of the knee, cover the front of the laces, and you go out to you shot a sweep single. I mean, it really is a sweep single from bottom Turtle.
Whoa.
And you don't see this in wrestling as much, that people aren't gonna take their hips out and put them that far away from their opponent's hips. You will hear coaches yell at their athletes, "Hey, don't stay behind, stay behind, stay behind, stay behind." And because there's crucifixes, people will come up front a lot more in jiu-jitsu to attack, because guys will just play straight up defense and hardly move sometimes too. You have these options that you don't see, that are 100% wrestling. You just don't see them in wrestling as much because the opportunity isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like this is one game that Andres had us play a lot, where bottom guy would be in Turtle. His job is just to stand up, break connections, and turn to face, like reset to neutral, essentially. And then top guy, your job is, all you have to do is just keep him down. And then we played variations of these where the top guy, you're not allowed to connect your hands. And I really like that one, because then it opened us up to do spiral rides and like grabbing ankles and wrist control. And I don't know what that's called, where you're like pinning their wrists to their own body. Wrist riding, all that kind of stuff started to come out of those games, which were super fun. And maybe Jake, maybe we talked about this before, is like, how do we balance the wrestling mindset of holding people down and control versus the jiu-jitsu mindset of taking the back and getting hooks in and scoring and whatnot. And yeah, it's weird to blend the two.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's weird to blend the two. It takes a long time. I mean, I'm a big believer that if I'm on top, if I can transfer the controls away from my hands as quickly as I can use my hands to then submit. But I know isn't groundbreaking or anything, but for example, if you're on top Turtle and then what you've done is gone to that crucifix, and now I don't pull him on top of me or anything. I'm controlling one arm with my legs. I've got one arm hooked. And yeah, so I'm using an arm to help control the other shoulder, but from my forearm down, it's free to do what it needs to do. You know what I mean? That's gonna help me, that type of stuff. So yeah, I hear, maybe I got sidetracked, but I think I hear what you're saying.
I found this. I don't think this is the sweep single example that you were referring to from Turtle. Yeah. It's more of a switch into a single leg.
Oh, that's a switch. That's a switch.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So and I meant that you don't really see what I'm talking about in wrestling, because the opportunity isn't there as much. But if this guy in blue, his hips keep coming out he's trying to chase the a crucifix, exactly. Yeah, like what I was talking about. And the yellow guy, brings his right arm and gets onto the left leg of the guy in blue, you're kind of like in a dogfight position, but now I've got your leg instead of an underhook.
Oh.
And then the
So you're
yellow
saying
guy
it
would
comes
keep.
around to the outside, like you grab his leg from the outside.
Yes. Yeah, you
And
grab his leg
I've
from
been
the
doing this a
outside.
lot too recently.
Whoa.
Kenta seems to do it a lot.
Yeah, he
when
does
I've been,
because he wrestles
yeah,
well.
yeah. I like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. The guy I've seen. Oh, I've seen it in one guy explaining it in an instructional, and that there's a Neil Melance's tactical turtle. He shows that how to do it, and then he shows them how to heal somebody off of it. So I thought that was cool.
Whoa. That is cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. In wrestling, like a pure wrestling, when you're in turtle position, what are they fighting over?
Who's on top? Plain and simple. In wrestling, there's only 3 ways to score: expose your opponent's back to the mat, gain control over your opponent, which means be on top, escape the control your opponent has on you. That's it. An escape is an escape. Takedowns and reversals are getting rewarded for control over your opponent, and near fall or exposing their back to the mat. And that's folk style wrestling. In freestyle wrestling, you're going to also have push outs and where you push them out of the ring. I favor rules where you're not allowed to stall, so I like that. But and then you're back to the same things.
Yeah. So from turtle position, the guy on top, is he always trying to get like pin the guy, like put their shoulders to the back, or can you just stay on top, control for a while, and then you score?
That's I mean, so in college wrestling, you can stay on top for a minute longer than your opponent stayed on top, and you get a point at the end of the match. It's called riding time. In high school, you do not have that, mostly because of the fact that it requires an additional person to keep track of how long each person was on top.
Oh, interesting.
But here's the thing: there's also stalling. So if you're not actively working to try and pin them the entire time, well, in your high school, you'll get called for stalling. They'll give your opponent points eventually for you do enough stalling.
Yeah.
So just holding people down is not the goal in wrestling. Like
Right.
when you're on top, it is to turn their back to the mat and put their shoulders on the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wait, let's see this clip.
Sorry to keep going back to this. I found this little clip, but this is kind of the grip you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh no, that's not the grip I'm talking about. Oddly enough. So this makes perfect sense as well. He's doing. I meant going on the outside, putting the arm between them. Like, so if his arm was on the same side as he is on Torres, instead of like around, you could do that. Like,
I see.
where you're
So if you're able to cut your elbow back.
Yes, if you're able to cut your elbow back.
I see. Gotcha.
You can just wrap the leg, and you're so close to a position where you just shot a single.
Got it. Gotcha.
Interesting. Okay, so for those just listening, I'm going to try to describe this. Let's say you're on bottom turtle. The guy's trying to transition a crucifix on your right side. You swivel your elbow under, grab their leg that's closest to you, and then try to come up on a single.
Yeah, and instead of coming up, I would say you mostly scooch back, because what you're mostly trying to do is get the relative angle of back if you had shot a single, but your head is like on the similar plane to your opponent's there, and you want your head to be behind them, more close to like behind their shoulder when you shot, so that your shoulder can now connect to the thigh again. You want to get that shoulder all the way to the thigh, and so generally you're going to have to scooch backwards to get that.
Got it. Okay. I see. You're scooching back, and then are you going to rotate around and try to get their foot outside? And
Absolutely. I'm going to try and shelve the foot. I'm going to try and control that foot with between my thigh and my gut and torso. And then so that I can now transfer control away from my hands. I don't even need to use my arms to control that leg. I'm going to control the other thigh. Just a moment before I get it. So you get that shoulder to the back of the thigh, and especially in nogi, I've heard many people talk about this, like, oh, it's so hard to control people. Cover the knee. Put your inside hand and just cover the front of the knee. It solves a lot of issues from that shot. Like, it's so much harder to run away, because if they try to like mule kick out or like anything like that, or be tricky with their knees, you're just covering it. They can't move it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's there, and then you just collect the other leg if you have to. I would almost always try to collect the other leg, because you don't know you have to until you know, and sometimes that point they're mounting you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just making fun.
No, it's all good. It's all part of the learning process.
Yeah.
So back to turtle, there's the control aspect. You're keeping them pinned down on the ground, especially if they're trying to get up and disconnect. Then there's the pinning aspect where you're breaking them down to a hip or shoulders, trying to
Yeah.
pin their shoulders. But then there's also the back take in jiu-jitsu. So
People throw hooks in wrestling. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never really did it much, but like,
okay.
it's called riding legs in wrestling, and putting the hooks in is riding legs in wrestling. I didn't do it much because it just wasn't my thing. A lot of it's still one of the harder things I struggle with from turtle is actually throwing hooks. So uh, I'm probably not the guy to give you a great explanation on that. I know how to do it. I can do it, but
What do
I
you like to
like
do
this.
from turtle? Do you like to pin and then just go to mount, or?
So I'm good at putting people to the hips. I'm good at putting people to their hips. And I'm good at making sure I prioritize control of those legs so that wherever you go, you're not gonna come out and put me in guard. And then one of the things that I would say that is unique that I do that's pretty uncommon is I'll come in double underhooks and I'll cup the fronts of the shoulder sometimes, and then I'll literally just back up and pull somebody and pull them right over their own feet and right onto their own back, and they'll be like they'll go from turtle and they'll just get pulled straight over. And I won't do this if they're being athletic, but if they're just trying to hold their base and not let me do anything, this is when I'll do this, and I'll pull them right over their own feet. And now we're in like a north-south position where I come right over the top with heavy pressure. One of my favorite subs is a north-south choke, so that's part of the reason I like to go there. But also, their hands come up, they're pressuring up here. You can go enter Kimuras very quickly. There's attacks right from there if they're just being defensive. That's one of the few things I've not seen a lot of other people use that I use.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you ever grab, like, let's say you're attacking turtle, you're on top. Do you ever grab their ankles and start lifting? Because I know sometimes I play around with it in these games. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm just like messing with different stuff, grabbing their ankles, or sometimes hooking your foot underneath theirs and just keeping their heel to their butt almost.
So what you just described is very wrestling. I don't personally do that. I focus a ton on keeping their knees together if I'm going to start messing with their legs. And the reason I want to keep their knees together is good luck putting me in guard if I keep your knees together. I pinned your knees, I go around, it's easy. So if you decide you want to leave that position, I'm going to try and put your knees together. The other thing about this is if I push them to a hip and I pin their knees together, I can throw my feet wide and just climb right up to mount. And it's not. I mean, one thing I want to mention real quick here is there's like a difference between competing at the highest level of the sport, what you should be doing, competing at the level that you were at. At the highest level of the sport, things like Americanas do not work. Like, you don't see them. But if you go to a local comp and I have never practiced Americanas because you don't see them at ADCC, you're about to get Americana if you're a white belt. And so you can hear what I'm saying and be like, hey, this wouldn't work if you had a match against if Victor Hugo is going against Nicky, right? And I'd be like, yeah, maybe not. But I'm not in the position to be telling Victor Hugo or Nicky Rod what to do in a match.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting a sense that it would be really tough to play guard against you. It seems like maybe you use a lot of wrestling to just shut guard down from everywhere and control.
I don't want to make this in any way a proof by authority because I am not an authority. I'm good at jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm good for a dude who has a career and practice. It goes to jiu-jitsu in the evenings, and but like, yeah, you wanna constantly focus on what your next task is here. And so if you're thinking about turtle as a means to submit here, Jake can answer this better than me. How often do you see keep submissions from the turtle position? Is it real common?
It's basically never, I feel like.
Yeah. So what the main goal's got to be to put yourself in a position where you can submit. And for me, I'm a lot better mount player than I'm on back. I just am. It's like I'm. It's not to say that I'm not good at taking the back and I'm not good at choking and finishing from the back. If you give me that option to mount or back, I'm going to take mount 10 times out of 10, every single time. And part of that could be because I'm 6'4" and 285. So I mean,
Right.
weight classes have an impact on what you do. They just
Sure.
do. Yeah.
Wait, Jake, question for you. So if I'm the guy attacking Turtle and I'm behind, from a risk management standpoint, putting them on their hip, pinning them versus trying to take their back, what are your thoughts from a risk perspective as the attacker?
Hmm. I would say it's kind of like what Randall was saying, like in the sense that like you kind of take what they give you, and if you prefer to pinch their knees together, it's going to be harder to take their back because there's not any extension, but it's going to be easier for you to transition to like pinning positions. Whereas if you're trying to push their knees together and they're actively splitting them apart, it might make more sense to, take their back. So, yeah, I think it's more of like the extension contraction like dilemma at play here.
Right.
As opposed to like a risk management thing. But I think just focusing on their knees, exactly like Randall was saying, gives you a good like risk management. Because like worst case is they get back to a position where their knees are now in front of you and you weren't able to stay behind their knees, and now you're like more neutral.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think knee position is a good like focal point.
Interesting. Randall, how do you like to get their knees pinched together? I can't like picture it in my head.
So like, let's say you wrapped around their body, and then I get a tight waist with one side. So like my body's on the far side of, and my hands like kind of near my shoulder, and I'm holding their body. I'll come in there and I'll literally grab their legs. I'll slide my arm down and I'll pinch their knees together. Now, does this always work? No, but like here's the thing. I'm doing something, and then just as Jake said, I'm looking at what they're doing and I'm adjusting to what they're doing.
Got it.
So like if and one of the things, the first thing I mentioned that was kind of unique to me is like, hey, if they're just doing everything to try and stay static and not let you have anything, trying to fight, not let your knees, not let you pinch their knees together, not let you get in there and choke, not let you do anything. Well, they're like, they have no base, and I'll just pull them back over, like literally roll them right back onto their back, like right over their feet, which I haven't seen other people do that much, so. But maybe it's part of it's because I also don't see at high levels. You don't see guys just stall from turtle as often. Maybe I'm wrong, but and it happens, but not.
That,
What's your opinion?
not to like discourage you from doing this, but like Danaher has a rule against this in his school. Because
Yeah.
like if you pull someone like directly back over their feet, you could like, especially if they're like the inside of their foot is like on the mat, you pull them back, it could put some pressure on their knee. So
Okay.
yeah, he basically that's why you don't see a lot of like them do it, at least.
So I don't even mean like where it has to be like directly over the top. I mean, it could be like a little bit
Added a
side
little
of
bit
the
of
side.
angle. Yeah,
Yeah, it could be a
for
little
sure.
bit of an angle. That's not what I mean, maybe I'm using the wrong words there, but what I'm saying is I just don't see a lot of people be like, all right, now I've connected, I'm holding your shoulders, and you're coming up and backwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? I see this. I teach a lot of like beginner people, and the
Makes sense.
beginner people that come in and just like scrap, you see this type of thing a lot. Where like, especially from like the front headlock, where like they just like rush around to go behind, and the defender like just tries to stand up. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get up," and then the person just like grabs like a seatbelt and just like falls back and like uses the
I,
momentum to knock them back.
yeah,
It's
that makes
just
sense. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not falling, but I get what you mean.
yeah.
Totally. Like,
It's a way more chaotic version of what you're describing. But
yeah,
yeah, it reminded me of this.
it's not. I mean, just like it's funny to think about it because like simple is good though. Like
Right.
it really is. Like the more steps there is in a sequence of a move you tell me, the more likely I'm going to be like, oh, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like if you show me like a 25 step move, that's gonna be. I'm probably not gonna say it to you because I'm not like rude, but I'm probably gonna be like, oh, I can't. I'm not doing that because that's a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like if you can, like if it's, hey, you're doing a lot of things, but you're doing them all at once, that's a different story. We can make this happen quickly. But if it's
Step one, step
extended,
two. Yeah.
yeah, if it's an extended period of, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jack Mueller is?
Yes, I do. Yeah, he's a national champion for
I
Virginia
love
Tech, right?
Yeah, I love watching him from Turtle. I think he's like one of the best people to watch from Turtle.
Yeah.
I love watching him. And when Josh asked about like people inserting hooks from Turtle, I just looked up his name, and this is something I've been trying to use a lot more. If like when I have one hook inserted, trying to figure out how to get it across to their other leg to like keep this leg extended, and then you can see he uses that to insert his hooks. But he is incredibly good study, I think, for Turtle.
He's a mean grappler from the top. But that's just part of what I was talking about, though. That is like you find some, and like not to say you don't find this in jiu-jitsu, because you do. You get enough dudes in a room who compete, you find this right away. But the meanness, but you find it everywhere in the sports where people don't do it unless they're competing. You know what I mean? Where they're just okay, do this, be mean, make them give up.
Dude, Jake, that hooks across is insane. It reminds me of like the side body triangle for with one leg or something without the body triangle. I don't know. It's crazy. It looks crazy.
Kind of. I think like more and more people are using this for like Joseph used it in try and find the clip where like he doesn't go across with it, but you can see he has one hook, and then he just like hooks on the leg, and then you can kind of like use it to help you like try and break them down over that hook. But just like little things like that, like trying to activate your toes a bit more.
That hook's a very standard leg in wrestling, where you try to then hook the shin. Again, I wasn't a leg rider. I wasn't good at it. I oddly, despite being tall, had very short legs, so it makes it really hard.
Gotcha. But yeah, Randall, thanks for going over front headlock and turtle from more of a wrestling perspective. It gives me some ideas for like things to fight over versus like the typical things we fight over in jiu-jitsu. I did want to ask about your thoughts on the database, your experience with it, and I feel like you're one of the most active people in the Discord as well, and so it'd be just cool to hear your general thoughts on database.
Honestly, it's great for being able to look up whatever you want to look up in jiu-jitsu. Like, so instructionals are, if you have an area you're looking to deep dive, are really good, and maybe you'll find something as good or better in the database. But like, if you, there's a lot of stuff. If you have a question in the database, it's just really useful as far as how to find. I have this problem. Let's find an answer. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain other than that. Like it's just when you go to the gym and you leave asking, well, how do I get out of a really deep triangle choke? And you type that in there, like triangle escapes. It's going to give you answers, at least things to think about.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Thank you. Yeah, this is usually how I start my YouTube videos. Like I generally have a topic in mind, and then I'll ask like the chat and be like, hey, I'm making a YouTube video about this, outline the video for me, and then it will give me some ideas, and then I usually pick one or two of those ideas and then dive deeper into them. But this is another example. Josh, you can see Craig has his left hook or right hook, this far one, in, and he brings it across to hook on to the leg here. Yeah, and then he uses that to help off balance the person.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a name for that?
I don't know. Do you know?
It starts with a T.
We have too many names for jiu-jitsu things anyway, but
no, I'm a believer in you name everything, because then you can actually have vocabulary to talk about it. Then you don't have to explain the concept to have a conversation about what you want to do from there.
And you can find it easily in the database.
There you go.
Yeah. You can't communicate about things without words.
Yeah.
So I'll give you. I don't know the answer right now off the top of my head. I know there's more than one. A crossbody hook, I think is it, but I don't know.
Okay, someone can respond to us on Instagram or in the Discord and let us know.
Yeah, I only have one other thing that's written on there, because I don't believe we talked about underhooks and overhooks, and last time as spaz. One thing I want to mention about this is so like getting underhooks is not as hard as people think sometimes. What you're really looking for is You want situations where your hands are below their hands and there's opening between their armpit and their arm. And so the reason why you have below their hands is because pretty simply you can punch it in and you can slide right up their arm into an underhook. And there's a couple. I'm going to mention a couple that are defensive. So the first one I'm going to mention is I've heard it called Indiana Jones. This is what I learned it as. And if you think about someone rearing back and whipping something, their hand comes behind their elbow and then they whip hard. So you're going to start out with the exact same motion of winding up the whip. And sorry, this is starting from someone holding your wrist. I should have said that. I just completely left that out because I got ahead of myself. But someone's holding your wrist and they're holding it hard. You whip your hand back like you're about to like whip a whip, and instead of whipping it forward, your hand circles down and you punch it up. Be careful with that one. If against good wrestlers, I've punched somebody right in the crotch once before, because they tried to block it and they got in between it. But it's really effective. It's really effective when you're not punching someone in the crotch. No, they grab your wrist and you're just like underhook. And then another silly named one is like they grab your wrist, and this one I learned. Silly names are stuff I like, but this is called Steven Seagal. It's a joke where they grab your wrist and you just literally point your wrist up and grab their own wrist. And I don't know if anyone who's played defensive line at any high level in football will know what's called a fork move. A fork move is when you grab their wrist and you hold it up and you push and you drive into them really hard and pull it, pushing their wrist up. They're grabbing your wrist and you just come up and grab their wrist and fork move them and punch an underhook. And then a couple other ones like arm drags lead into them really well. And one of my favorites is to club somebody and really like try to just snap them down really hard. 9 times out of 10, they're going to club you back really. They're going to come back with that club to try and catch their balance. And when their hand comes up, you punch the underhook. It's just, you can just, it's before this. Oh, no, it's not. Never mind.
Literally right at the start of the match.
Yeah, it's one of the things I do a lot. I club hard here. His hand comes up to deal with that. You see how he clubs back, and it's a really good tactic for getting underhooks. And then one thing now that you're just because you want underhooks, I want to explain. If people aren't aware of this, underhooks and overhooks are actually neutral. And in case people don't get this, like people think most people you talk to are like, oh, I always want underhooks. I always want underhooks. And underhooks and overhooks are really neutral. What the difference is that if you were to win with an overhook, you have like probably about a 10-degree range, maybe a little more, maybe 20 at most, but from your elbow coming away from your side. To win with an overhook, you have every bit after that. So you just have to be a lot tighter, a lot more, like you have a narrower range you're winning. And it's all about the angle of the elbows wins with overhooks and underhooks. So a couple years ago, I did grappled at BJJ-HELP Worlds, and this guy gets 2 collar ties on me. I try to slide by him. It fails. He gets 2 underhooks on me. And I grab 2 overhooks. I pick him up. I chop his legs out from under him, and we go down and I get a takedown. And that's because when he got those 2 underhooks, he had 2 underhooks with his elbows pointing down, and I wrapped and did not let those elbows come out the outside of the width of my chest. And I just picked him up with it. You know what I mean? And so it feels like underhooks should win because they win over of that 180-degree range roughly. They win 160 degrees of it. But if you can keep it in the side that narrow, yet arm is pinched down to your body, that 20-degree range, you're winning with the overhook. And people just aren't expecting it. Like your opponent is not expecting you to pick them up with an overhook. It's just not. They're not expecting. And so sometimes you can get really, like you can get takedowns with this. If you want to look up a wrestler who was really good about it, John Trench. He's older. Lost to Kel Sanderson, which is like the best college wrestler ever in the NCAA finals. Used to be the man with an overhook. So like 99 area, long time ago. But yeah, what are you pulling up? I could tell.
I was looking at the like classic underhook counter. You know, this classic one. I was trying to see like where their elbow position was. Like when Marigal punches in this underhook, where his position was.
Yeah.
Yeah. and it just gets launched.
Yeah. I mean, it's close, isn't it? It's right next to their body. Yeah. He's keeping that elbow close to his body, and he's just winning with that that overhook.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guarantee Michael Pixley understands that. You know, I can win with an overhook. You know what I mean? It's just you got to keep it in position where you're strong.
Wait, so could you describe that again for me? So you have an underhook overhook situation. It's neutral. At which point is it better for the underhooker versus the overhooker?
So if you're like the long bone in your arm is your humerus. So I'm just going to use that term. If your humerus is like in line with your spine to about 20 degrees away from it, yeah, you're winning with an overhook.
Oh, with an overhook. I see. Oh, so overhook, you want it. Oh, that makes so much sense. You just want it tight to you.
Yeah, you want it tight to your body. If your humerus is coming further away from the like parallel with your spine.
Oh yeah,
that's that area where the underhook is winning.
Got it. Makes sense.
And like the extreme example of this might be like the mirror lock type thing, where you're like punching it and like like an extreme example.
Oh, you're going across. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to the negative side.
yeah. Negative degrees. Yeah, I see.
You're 100%. I actually use mirror lock from that exact position doing that meme. But it's just unexpected from people who don't really know how to wrestle to actually beat them with an overhook. Because like, the underhook's better. But you know, a CLA thing actually like for this is you start with one guy with an underhook, one guy with an overhook. And you know what a whizzer kick / an uchimata is, I'm sure. I always grew up calling it a whizzer kick because I was a wrestler, not a judo player. But you do that, and then you look at the other side, the guy with an underhook and a underhook cross knee pick. Which position is that? That's the same position. Who's got the underhook? Who's got the overhook? I guarantee you, who's winning is who's winning with that positional elbow angle, like the elbow, that shoulder angle, where how far their elbow is away from their body. It's the same position, exact same thing. Is he winning with a cross knee pick and he's shucking the guy down to the ground? Well, yeah, you got the arms away from your sides, and that overhook, or the underhook's going to win. The elbow's tight. That Ochimata guy, whizzer kick guy, is probably going to throw the other guy on the ground. And you can see it coming because you know what you're looking for.
Right. Wow.
Very cool.
Very interesting. Cool. Anything else that we should cover?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I could talk about wrestling forever, but that'd be way too long.
Anything from you, Jake?
No, that was very helpful. I'm glad I got to be on this one. I wasn't on the first one, so I'm very happy I was able to make it to this one. So.
You didn't know I would actually be so knowledgeable in wrestling when they had the first one.
No, I did. You were in the Discord a lot. You're very active in there. So
I was just joking.
Just teasing. But yeah,
very defensive there. I'm sorry.
No, you're completely fine, man. I didn't realize it wasn't apparent. I was joking.
Awesome. This is awesome episode. Thanks for coming back on and following up on a few topics here and just letting us put you on the spot. So yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I just encourage people to go try and wrestle. Like even if you're a good guard player, having more ways to win matters. And I say this as somebody who learned guard just to have more ways to try and win things if I want to or need to more than want. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Randall. And thank you all for listening. We'll catch you all on the next episode.